Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 3 of Deadmen Tell All Tales. Well, technically it's episode 4, but we had an episode get lost, but we're not going to talk about that. Anyway, we are back with our newest episode of Deadmen Tell All Tales with a slightly smaller crew this time around, but because of that, we are trying something a little bit different. We're going to basically do what we're going to call a Deadmen Rapid Fire, and instead of having one predetermined subject that we're going to all talk about our favorites on, we are just going to kind of come up with a bunch off the top of our heads and just kind of run through the whole thing. In fact, some of these, if they're good enough, might end up actually becoming focuses of full-sized episodes, so who knows? Anyway, joining us on the podcast, our seasoned regular, Judy. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm good.
And co-host of the Bon Voyage podcast on SoundCloud, Travis Steffens. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. Now, originally, one of the things we were jumping around, me and Travis were talking about before we started this. I'm not sure if you've seen this show, Judy, before. Recently, Travis has been trying to get me to watch this for forever, and I finally finished watching Gurren Lagann for the first time.
Yes.
So, have you seen the whole thing?
Yes.
Oh, great. That makes this 10 times easier. So, on that topic, we had this idea of talking about probably like the best like twists in movies, like honestly, like I said, I originally was joking around about being like the best spoilers in movies, but really it's like I just define it more of just like who does the best job of changing up the status quo in a way you don't expect that actually like means something and isn't just part of a stunt. And I mean, obviously, spoiler alert warning away. Spoiler warning everywhere. That episode of Gurren Lagann really does set that up amazingly. So, in the simplest terms I can give it, and Travis will do the more complicated version, Gurren Lagann is both a homage, critique, and it's sometimes parody of the Japanese giant robot anime genre, but somehow turns out being like one of the best ones of them there are along the way. And it is like the epitome of a have your cake and eat it too anime. Like, they are able to reach like the most heartbreaking, amazing extremes without sacrificing any of the ridiculous, crazy anime action that got them there. And I think that is, in an essence, what like makes the show. But the big thing that makes the show is, this is where the spoiler comes in, the show's use of a certain character in the show that is built as an incredibly good archetypal example of the absolute normal protagonist to these kinds of shows. And he's a really good one of those. And the second he starts getting grown worthy and a lot of that, believe in yourself, do whatever you can kind of things. Literally when they've gone as far with his character as they can, the show decides he's not the protagonist anymore.
Nope.
And by decides, I mean he's out of there.
It was one of those ones too where you're like, no, they didn't.
They didn't really do that. Like, they're gonna bring him back with the Dragon Balls or something, or something.
Especially,
he doesn't.
Especially since he does actually get up the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like,
oh my goodness.
Oh, no, he's actually dead.
Yep. Oh. And you're just like, oh, okay. Well, that happened. I'm gonna go, cry now.
Right, but both for his character and for the series, though, it feels really deserved, though. Like, because on one hand, as a character, he does accomplish his arc, and he does, his role in the show does feel complete when he leaves. But from a show perspective, there's like a million reasons why the show would not work and wouldn't be nearly as good if Kamina survived the whole thing.
I almost want to I have a Kamina plush. I almost want to go get him and have him join us with. But yeah, no, you're right. Because, looking back on it, I always thought, darn them for, killing off Kamina. But yeah, no, looking back, you're like, yeah, He
It-
fulfilled his role. He
as
did what he
sad
had to
as
do.
it sounds, like it would not be nearly as good of a show if he lived. Like it
Oh,
it,
Yeah.
it is just an integral piece of what makes that show actually good.
Mhm.
And even with him being dead, the fact that they have so much restraint in their decision making as far as like how they embrace some of the other cliches or things to go along with a character that's dead, and they're willing to wait that long is really cool. For example, like obviously you know that the arc of our main character is to fulfill that role and become the Simone that however that phrase goes. But they wait until like the very end of the show to actually do the entire outfit transformation and all that kind of stuff. And they wait that long to the end also to actually bring Kamina back and appear in everyone's dreams and do that whole sequence. It's the fact that he's been gone that long that actually feels like it has some impact. And it's the little things you notice in the set design that makes really that feeling that Kamen is always there, even when he's not there. Like, knowing that he's, like, the entire, robot's main attacks and everything are, it's a combination of Simone's drills and Kamina's sunglasses being stretched across the thing.
Those sunglasses.
And it's the little things you notice. Like, it's the smallest thing in the world, but I would argue that, like, the fact of noticing that Simone's sunglasses are bigger than Kamina's at the end of the show is actually one of the most important pieces of set design in the entire show. As stupid as that might sound. But the whole show is just chock full of that crap. And all of that could not happen if Kamina didn't take one for the team.
Oh man.
What's another really good one you guys would say? Another like really good, meaningful twist. It doesn't have this. I know like character dies is like the easiest one to go to, but like, is there any other like
anime in general or in Gurren
in
Lagann
anything,
specifically?
anything at all, like a normal show? Just you can draw it from for anywhere. Just really big twists that really work.
Anybody here seen Steins Gate?
I haven't
Another
yet.
Anime.
I started it and then never finished it.
Finish it. It is currently my most favorite anime of all time. I've seen it all the way through like 7 times, and it's one of those ones where every time you go back, you watch it again, and it just you notice more things than you did before. And the big twist in there, and I guess spoiler alert for you guys if you haven't seen it, is episode 12, where because it's all about time travel, but not in the sense that you would think it is.
Right.
And in episode 12, someone I won't say who, but someone's life is at stake,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's all about them trying to go back and save that person over and over and over again and trying to change things. So I always thought that was a really cool plot twist in there.
The one that got me probably the most is like, and it's not even. It's actually kind of difficult to point it as one particular spoiler. I'm not trying to stay on anime, but this one did come up for me. At one point, I was scrolling around different things, and I just walked up to Travis and said, "Hey, Travis, I'm going to try watching Madoka Magica." And he smiles and says, "Oh, good luck with that."
Good luck with
I
that.
said, "Well, is it good? Is it bad?" He's like, "Why don't you just watch a couple episodes?"
I actually haven't seen that either, so.
Oh, that is a really good anime.
And I
I've
can talk
heard,
about
and
this
it's on
one
my
without,
list.
and I actually know a way to talk about this one without being a spoiler. Because the
Okay.
interesting thing about this show is the fact that literally the entire premise of the show is the twist spoiler. It's the idea that you find out not even the whole thing until the very end, little piece by little piece, what the actual premise of the show is, what the actual stakes are, all those kinds of things. Keeping as broad as I can, the main thing is that it actually came this way from the creator deciding as he was writing this that he wanted the show to be something else.
Ah.
So it starts out as a pretty good, but a typical, magical girl style anime, and as it goes on, warps itself into a very hard-hitting commentary on magical girl anime. And as both, like as either one, it's really good. Like as a magical girl anime on its own, it's actually a really good show. But as a commentary, it's an amazing show.
Huh.
I'm trying to think of at least one good one outside of anime.
Plot twists.
Me and Travis have talked about this one a little bit before. That as strange as it sounds, the twist that me and Travis enjoyed in Frozen is not the one everyone points to. I found that was interesting because me and Travis have, being a Disney podcast, we've talked about a lot of Frozen before. We haven't done a full show on it yet. We've mentioned our feelings about it at one point or another. But, like, for me, it feels like the spoiler of, the twist of realizing that, Anna is saved from the love of her sister is so much more important to the movie than the twist of Hans ending up being a bad guy.
Yeah.
They both work, but that one just seems like the more important and the one I wish more people would talk about.
Yeah.
They're both good, like I said, but just like as far as if I had to pick one that I feel like deserves the most emphasis, it is that one.
Right. I kind of think that that's probably what the creator was aiming for too.
Mm-hmm.
And then people are like, "Oh, Hans is the best." Hans. I can't pronounce any of the characters in that movie. Apparently, Hans is the bad guy, and the creators just they're like, "No, you guys, moral, sisters, love, family, things going on, and whatever."
Yeah, it really brings down the whole movie for me. I still love the movie, but
It was cute.
Really...
Still not my favorite though.
Yeah.
Good music. Got really annoying once it was played on the radio forever though.
Try to get one more. See if I can think of one. This is a weird one to talk about, but I think me and Travis have we touched on this a little bit also. Still on the Disney bandwagon, and it feels weird because this movie's been around long enough that it's seems weird to discuss this as a twist. But when you actually think, me and Travis have discussed before with Lion King, the amount of things that go into setting up the death of Mufasa in that movie is actually kind of miraculous. And I couldn't imagine I did see it in theaters as a kid, but it still never really sit with me until I was an adult later to realize that we all have these big moments, and every generation has their moments in history or pop culture, whatever they're gonna remember. I was here for this, I was here for that, and does it feel weird that for a good chunk of us, one of ours is gonna be I saw Mufasa die on the big screen as a child?
Oh yeah.
I think that is actually kind of important. Is it just feels weird to discuss it as a spoiler because it's it feels like it just is what it is. But
yeah.
At the time that came out though, that was a big deal. Not just the idea that he died, but Scar was still to this day is one of the only Disney villains to ever actually kill off a hero character directly.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
And they don't shy away from it either. It's still I think through that sequence in its entirety, step by step, and it's still just so it's
Mufasa.
It's brother, help me! Long live the king! And that'll just even now it's just it's a really powerful scene. And it's not only is it well set up, but it's well integrated into the point in the rest of the movie. It's for me is the go-to way of look, this is your step-by-step guide of how to kill a likable character. It's
yes.
Yeah.
Still gets you.
It does.
I don't know if I can really talk much as far as being able to have seen that on the big screen, because when I saw it, I probably was like this tall.
Yeah, like there is a piece of like how much you really like absorb from movies when you watch them young enough, but like
Right.
I'd like to think that you still like you got some. I don't think I understood like the impact of him dying as a kid, but like I understood that like as a movie. Um, Speaking of things that get to you, this might be an interesting one. I might do this one as a bigger episode later. What about like pieces of media that really get to you though? Like something that like no matter how many times you've seen it, you still tear up a little bit every
Uh,
time you revisit.
well, I would say it doesn't happen for me every time, but according to my parents, the Disney movie that got me the most when I was a kid was Cinderella when she lost her shoe, because I just kept like tearing up over that every time I watched it when I was like this tall, and I'm like, she lost her shoe. That is, fun little like kids story. I guess I did that with the Tigger movie too, where Tigger lost his bounce. I was very upset. It was a very saddening day.
Well, I mean, you look at the look in his face though in that movie. It's
I
just like he
know,
is
he's so sad.
devastated.
So sad. But currently, hmm, ah, Harry Potter, movie 7, part 1, where Dobby dies.
Okay.
I always tear up at that one, but that's because growing up, especially, I was always a humongous Harry Potter fan, and like
Right.
when I say humongous Harry Potter fan, my family won a trip for 4 to England and Scotland to see like the studios and stuff like that.
Right.
So, like, yeah, but yeah, that always got me. Still does every time I watch it. Like, I might not start sobbing like I did in the movie theater, but I'll, you know, I need a tissue.
Right. Travis, you got anything?
Uh, the one that comes to mind actually is the Disney one, Fox and the Hound. It
Right.
just
I mean, me and Travis actually rewatched that recently. Because we were
Yes.
debating doing an episode on it, and like we even like the first like it's the part at the beginning that like gets everybody, and we're both sitting there like we're not like actually crying, but we're like, this is a little bit more intense than I remember. Like all the way through the movie, we're like, this is just not to say it was a good or a bad thing, but we're just like, this movie is heavier than I remember it being.
Oh yeah.
Like it's just we had some good talk with that movie too. Like it's just a lot to it that's like really it just we were just very caught off guard by it in a lot
There's
of
also
those
that
scenes.
one part where, the older woman has to take the fox. I forget the names and everything. It's been so long, but she has to take him back to the wild, and that song is playing, and you're just like the feels. Oh, good one. Good one.
The one that gets me is this one actually got me recently. Was and this is a pretty typical one, but Pixar's Up is my favorite Pixar movie. I watched it with my fiance. She had only seen it. This is her seeing it for the first time. She cried 3 times. I cried once. Because part of it is because the ones that I didn't cry on were the one I kind of braced myself for, and then the third one snuck up on me, and that's why it got me. Because first one is obviously the one that everyone gets down on, which is the one at the very beginning where they do the montage scene of them getting married and falling in love, and then Ellie dies and all that. Like that one just broke her. And then the scene later on when they're flipping through the adventure book, and she filled it with pictures of them throughout their lives and turns to the final page and said, the rest of the adventure's up to you, whatever. And but those ones I was sad but it didn't break. And then I got to the very end of the movie when he gives her the Ellie badge, when he puts the grape soda pin on Russell at the ceremony. Oh, I just collapsed. I just fell apart.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, that kind of. I was like debating. I'm like, I don't wonder what my favorite Pixar movie is. And then the next thing I know, me and my fiance are just bawling into each other's arms. And I'm like, nope, it's this one. It's this one.
Yeah.
Still haven't seen Up.
if you need to.
I know. I have like a sheltered life. Oh well.
It is
I'll
really
watch.
good.
Yeah, I've heard so many good things about it, and there's never been anything stopping me from watching it. Just hasn't happened yet, so.
It's one of the thing that's interesting about it is it's one of the most quiet films Pixar's ever done.
Oh,
Like,
really?
it's in there, but like when you look at that film and think about like how much time goes by in a children's movie where there's no dialogue, it's kind of fascinating.
Huh.
Like, especially towards the beginning of the movie. Like the in the first there's only like one, like I think Ellie has her small speech at the beginning, and then there's almost like a full 10 minutes with almost no dialogue. And even when it gets to like the slapstick stuff for the comic relief characters, they're all really good. Like they actually feel fantastic, and there's a lot of really good. Just the film's full of really good stuff. It's just all the way through, just fantastic. I'm trying to think of something a little bit less depressing we can move on to for our next one. Feel free to throw one out if you guys can think of one.
Let's see.
You guys got a favorite? Travis, bring this one up. What a really good movie that you hate but everyone else seems to love?
Oh. Oh, geez. Frozen? No, I'm joking. I actually don't mind Frozen. Oh god, that's a hard one.
I'm trying to think. I think for me, the one that usually gets me is that I don't even think it's one that I hate, but like from the get-go, I was one of those, pretentious people that didn't want to get on the Dark Knight bandwagon. And it's like, it feels like only now are we starting to get people that are like rewatching the movie and things come up. And I'm like, I'm not taking away from things about the movie that are good, but like, there's just so much of that movie that people just didn't talk about. Like, it's just like, I think Travis and me were talking about it a little bit ago, and he's just like, it's a great movie, quote unquote, as long as you don't think too hard about it. Like, it's weird. Like, me and Travis have like the same reactions with both of like either Dark Knight or 89 Batman. In both of our cases, both of us watched our individual film too many times, and now it's kind of ruined it for us, regardless of what the actual total quality of the movie might be.
Yeah.
I think for me, like, before I watched it for the first time, I was like, this is so stupid. This is going to be retarded. I don't want to watch this. I'm not even going to try. And then where was I? I was over a friend's house, and she's like, we're watching this. I'm like, okay, I have nothing better to do. It was, Warm Bodies.
Warm Bodies, yeah, the one, the zombie apocalypse rom-com movie.
Yes, and I ended up liking it a little bit. It wasn't, I was like, this is cute. I mean, it's really silly, but it was cute. But, a lot of people are like, oh, it's such a good movie. Just like, this is going to be so retarded, just like that iZombie thing that's out on TV right now.
Right.
Looks ridiculous, but that's just me. So, I don't know. I think as far as like recently goes, that would probably be the one movie.
I'm trying to think. Travis, do you got anything?
I can't think of one at the moment.
It's a tough one.
Yeah. I know there's some, but I just can't.
I was looking at my like movie collection and seeing if I could get any ideas from there. I'm like, is there anything over there that I love that nobody really likes? And they're like, why do you have this?
Right. I think, what was it? There was an anime I could swear that, like, okay, here's a weird one. Okay, this one is not even that I don't like it. It's just that for a reason it does not click. If you like did a checklist of like all the individual things that I happen to really like, there's no reason on this planet I should not be the biggest fan in the world of Mad Men. But for whatever reason, when I sit down to like actually watch the show, I just cannot find myself like immediately compelled. I'm kind of the same way with Game of Thrones. I don't hate Game of Thrones. I have like nothing against it. But there's just something like I just can't quite find my hook. And for whatever reason, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think part of it is the like I'll fully admit that with Game of Thrones in particular. Oh boy.
Oh, no.
There we go. I think Travis is still on his way back. I think with Game of Thrones, a big part of it in particular is the toxicity of the community. And that's sort of something that it's literally impossible to avoid unless you want to just completely lock yourself away in a tomb and enjoy Game of Thrones by yourself. But even then, like watching the show, I have a hard time finding a hook. But unfortunately, the only real, and it's hard to find anyone who relates because the show is still in its big pomp and circumstance right now. And the only reaction you usually get from people is like, oh, I haven't really found the hook yet. And everyone's like, well, you just need to watch a little bit farther. And everyone has their point like a little bit farther ahead of how much I should have to watch. But there still is a really weird part of me that's just like,
no.
There's just so much other stuff to watch. And if I have to watch an entire season to get hooked,
right.
No matter how good that second season is, I just don't know.
Right.
And it's nothing against people that enjoy it.
I still haven't watched a single episode, so.
I watched a couple episodes, but like,
and
I don't know.
Weird
I just can't find my hook.
Like all over that because I love like Renaissance and medieval themed anything, so I should be all over that, but nope. Still haven't.
And at least I'm glad we're getting to the point now where like even the people that do love the show are actually starting to get a little bit more critical on like the episode to episode kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not watching up currently, but like I know a lot of people watching the show I've been hearing have had like a lot of problems with just pure desensitization going on with like the darkness of the show, where people are like, look, if someone gets like raped and massacred every single episode, after a while it's gonna start losing the start losing impact.
Spartacus, anybody?
Fair enough.
What was I gonna say?
Anything? I don't got anything on the opposite end, like something that everyone else seems to hate, but you got a soft spot for.
The later Resident Evil movies.
Okay.
Not really. Like, I mean, I enjoy Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, but after that, I'm just kind of like, I actually haven't even seen 4 and 5 yet because I literally looked at like the previews and I'm just like, okay, this is ridiculous. Alice has clones and she's a ninja, so we're just going to calm down right now. But I know at least quite a few of my friends who really don't like 3 specifically, and I still enjoy that one. So that's just me, but I love number 2 especially because it's got my lovely in it Jill Valentine.
Right.
She's so amazeballs. But that's the only thing I can think of as far as something that I like that most others don't.
How about you, Travis? You got anything?
Damn it, I can't.
See, I'm trying to think. One for me is like, this one's like really far into guilty pleasure territory for me, and it's weird because it's like I sometimes feel like I give the show a little bit more credit than I should, but it definitely is one that like I've shown it to like anyone I show it to is just like, how in the heck is this actually like a thing? You know, like I love Saturday morning anime to death, and that's why I do panels and stuff about it. And the one that I always bring up to people is Beyblades. As like as a pure example of just like You know, this is like you're not, you know, your eyes aren't deceiving you. This is actually a thing. This went on for multiple seasons, you know, and I watched it every single Saturday kind of shows, which is basically Yu-Gi-Oh with battle tops. And it takes itself just as seriously.
I'm there with SpongeBob. I still love SpongeBob, and everybody I know is like, SpongeBob's so annoying. I'm like, I love SpongeBob.
I think SpongeBob actually does have like a lot more. It's not a perfect show, but I think it does have a lot more creativity than people are willing to throw at it. There's so many people out there that still think they're like, oh, SpongeBob's nothing but just bright colors and fart jokes. I'm like, no, there's more to it than that. Like, there are specific episodes you can point to that have like legitimate creativity to them and good jokes and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. The one that always gets me, as far as, it's not sure that everyone else hates that I love, but like the only main gripe I have about SpongeBob is like SpongeBob I think is like the biggest thing stopping like Fairly Odd Parents from being like the big Nickelodeon flagship.
Yeah,
it's like it's an amazing show and it has a great audience and I shouldn't be disappointed. But unfortunately, it's just always going to play second fiddle to SpongeBob because they happen to be on the same network together.
Yep.
That's just the way it is, and that's something I just have to kind of live with, even though, like, I feel like they've done more with Fairly Odd Parents. Like, it's had more TV movies, it's had more specials, it's, you know, evolved more as a show, changed up its status quo, you know, and their TV movies are amazing.
They were all very, very good.
Channel Chasers is still like one of my favorite animated TV movies of all time. One. Just, it's so good.
That was really, really good. I really enjoyed that one. Yeah, no, SpongeBob only has its you know, the specials that would run with like Patchy the Pirate every once in a while, and then there's the couple of movies that are out. Not going to lie, I really like the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, the first one, not the weird claymation one that just came out.
You need to see the new one.
Is it good?
It is actually. Like the part of the movie that you see this like the claymation stuff is actually only like the last third of the movie, if that. Like actually the majority of the movie is 2D animation.
Oh,
and it's really funny. Like, I was surprised. Like, I went there because my fiance wanted to see it. And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a fair shot. And I came out of it, like, laughing my ass off. Like, I was really shocked.
That's awesome. Because the first one was actually really good, too. And it surprised me when I went and saw it. Actually, no, because when I first saw it, I was in the peak of, like, my SpongeBob-ness. And I was like, SpongeBob movie!
Yeah. Like, watching the second movie is one of the things that everyone's main complaint about. It's like, oh, it's just like watching, you know, an hour and a half long SpongeBob episode. I'm like, and you were expecting what?
Right.
Like, that's not a misconception. Like, that is the cinematic promise of the movie.
Pretty much. Oh, man. Cool, now I definitely have to watch it. Because I was, like, really skeptical, and I hadn't, of course, none of my friends or anybody likes SpongeBob, so I'm kind of like, I don't know if it's good or not, so now I know it's pretty good, so I have to watch it. I'm excited.
About, favorite obscure thing that you doubt anybody else has seen?
Ooh. I don't think there's anything that I've seen that is obscure that no one else has seen, because I don't delve too deep into obscure things.
Right. Yeah, Travis, you never get into stuff that no one else is into, right?
What? No, never.
Never.
Shoot.
Oh, of course, I just thought of another movie that I liked that everybody else seemed to dislike. I'll just go ahead and throw it out there, I guess.
Okay.
Name. There's a name in there somewhere. Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer, okay.
Snowpiercer. I actually thoroughly enjoyed that. People are like, oh, it's so dumb.
I really like that movie, too.
Yay!
Yay!
I'm not alone. Obscure things. No, I'm not. I'm boring.
I say like the one thing that like this is not like on the completely obscure side, but it amazes me how many people haven't seen it. Like, as a person who's like really into DC stuff, like I really enjoy. Like I watch almost all of like the non-direct like animated canon stuff, like all like the directed DVD stuff. It's all like really good, but like you'll never find somebody in a conversation who's seen it.
Oh, huh.
Like you like literally the only time you ever see commercials for them is one, you're looking for them online, or two, it's on the DVD of another one of these obscure things. And there's
Nice.
so many of them, and I haven't even gotten around to seeing all of them. I don't have one in particular. I don't even have one in particular I would point to, but a lot of them are really good. What I'll mention is because this actually pertains a little bit to like the Flash finishing up right now. There's the last. I think it's probably canonically the last of the DC animated films. Before they went New 52 was a movie called the Justice League: The Flashpoint Paradox. Which the simplest way I can explain this is, without knowing exactly what he did, Reverse Flash tricks the Flash into running so fast that he goes back in time in order to save his mother from being killed. But, like,
What?
saving his mother, like, completely corrupts the entire universe and, like, deconstructs everything. Like, for example, in this universe, I'm going to try to get through as many of these as I can. The night that Bruce Wayne's parents died, Bruce actually is the one that gets shot, and Thomas Wayne becomes Batman. And I think eventually Martha Wayne becomes the Joker. It's really weird. But that doesn't happen in the movie. They just kind of allude to it. Deathstroke becomes like a modern day pirate, essentially. Atlantis and Themyscira are at war because Wonder Woman and Aquaman had an affair, and then Wonder Woman beheaded Marina.
Oh my Jesus, there is a lot of crap going on in that.
Yeah, and so it's all like built on that premise of like, the universe starting over or whatever. But the thing that's so crazy about it is that like Flash has to get his powers back in order to even have a remote chance of saving anybody. So what he does is he goes to Batman to help him recreate the experiment that got him his powers, which essentially means Batman stringing up a bunch of IVs of all the chemicals that got injected into him into IVs, and then basically hooking him up to a Frankenstein lightning rod so that he can once again, by coincidence, get struck by lightning and bash into all the chemicals. It doesn't work. Burns him to like 99% death because he has no healing factor because of the fact that his powers don't work. And then looks at Batman and says, "Try it again." And so he does it again and then gets his powers back. Like it's a cool scene just to be like, holy crap, this guy's committed. Or should be committed, one of the two. You got one, Travis?
I forgot what we were talking about.
Obscure things that you're into that most people wouldn't be.
Obscure.
I didn't think you'd struggle with this one.
I'm thinking. I know there's. Oh, okay. Off the top of my head, have you ever heard of Flame of Recca? No, most people haven't. It's a really good thing that it's really good and no one has heard about it. It starts a little generic when the guy he gets his fire power. He has a bunch of fire dragons inside him, and he has to gather all the mystical items that for the ancient ninjas. And it starts really generic, and it sounds but it's actually really good once it gets going. And I can never find anyone who's known about it. I've literally only met one other person who's read it, and it's really good. It, yeah, unfortunately, it's hard to explain because when you explain it, it sounds really generic.
Oh, I know what you mean. There's a lot of stuff like that that's like really hard to pitch.
It's great. The guy wants to be a ninja, but it's not a ninja, and it's this guy, yeah, but it's one of my favorites, and so there's that.
I have an idea.
Okay.
Video games of any kind that you hate but everybody else loves.
Interesting. Okay. So video games that we hate that everyone else loves. Is there any really popular game that I can't stand that everyone else loves? That's a difficult one because, for instance, I don't like Halo, but I don't know if that's because I dislike it or because I suck at it.
Right.
I could have sworn I had one that's like. There's a couple classic games that I've tried that I just can't get into. The one thing that's okay. This isn't that I dislike these games or I think that they are bad games, but me and Travis have had this talk a lot before. It is really, really, really hard to get attached to JRPGs when you have no nostalgia attached. It's not even just the nostalgia, but like trying in, like in a schedule of an adult, getting into a brand new one that like I see Travis play these, but like most of these are ones where he has like half the puzzles and the strategies like memorized already and there's like all that legwork done for him. But like I've tried out a couple and even the ones I like, I get a little bit into it and I'm just like, this is fun, but I do not have the hours in the day. And that's, to an extent, that's not the problem of the games. In some cases it can, but in some cases it isn't. It's like, it is an interesting discussion in some points. Like, I don't think a lot of people talk about it because they played it when they're kids, but as an adult, I feel like the save points in Final Fantasy VII are like really far apart. Like, I feel like, and maybe I've just gotten spoiled by insta-save or at least prolonged states.
Yeah.
Like, even when I play classic games on emulators, even just the idea of having suspend state, not even if you use save state, but just suspend state, feels like a godsend in certain games. And although I wouldn't want to exploit a save state in an JRPG, I don't see in modern day how I could get through one without at least a suspend state.
Gotcha. Makes sense. There are, I see, because I'm a big JRPG person and just RPG person in general. I have noticed a lot of them nowadays are starting to implement the instant save or more of a regular save point system where it's easier to save, or you can use that option of having it save, such as Bravely Default. You can have the option where it saves each time you enter a different area.
Mm-hmm.
So I have that enabled because there'll be times where I'm playing it and then I have to get up and do something. So I just be like, oh, I just need to get into the next area and it'll automatically save. But you can also turn it off so that way it's actually harder and you have to play through different areas. So I think they're trying to like customize that a little bit more. But I can see where you're coming from with that, because there have been several times where I'm playing through something and there's something I have to do or something and I have to get to the next save point and it's like, come on, I gotta get there. It's okay, cool.
Travis, you got anything that everyone else loves that you can't stand?
The most recent one was everyone. I never got into Skyrim that much. Everyone really loved that game. Mm-hmm. It was the best, and I played it and I really liked it at the beginning, and then it just really kind of throttled on. I didn't know where they're going. I just lost interest in it really quickly.
I'm like that in general with Bethesda games.
Yeah.
I liked Fallout. Fallout 3 was really good, and I like the other ones, but I don't know that game. I know everyone said, "Oh, it's the best game ever." I don't know. It just didn't do it for me.
We're not playing it right, Travis.
Oh,
You
jeez.
chose the wrong class. You need to start over and do 20 more hours.
No. God.
That's one of the main reasons I haven't started that or any other Bethesda game, because I know it's going to be a lot of hours I'm going to be clacking. So
Speaking of which, here's another good one I'll say. And this wasn't even one that I grew to hate originally. I think that over time, I've grown to dislike Dark Souls more than I like it. Like, as far as, like, it is a really bad job as it, like, compared to other difficult games, because I have some really, really difficult games that I love. It is a really bad job of incentivizing you to get to the point where you died horribly, and the game giving you an incentive to want to try again. And Dark Souls does that horribly, because there's a lot of, like, they didn't argue this perfectly, but there's this new episode of this show called Deadlock on the Game Theorist channel where they debate the really good and the really bad parts of Dark Souls. And the guy is arguing for the bad, although he doesn't hit on everything. He does really hit on a point of, at what point does it become unfair when a game company is being flat out dishonest with you? Like, is it fair to a game to literally cheat in the most literal sense of the word? When the game tells you one thing in clear text, and it is flat out not that thing. There are items in that game that say they do this, and they do something else. And there's a lot of cheap death in that game, too.
Yeah. I have a real love-hate relationship with that game. First time I was playing, I hit it through, and then I got cursed, and I had no idea how to get rid of it, and it just didn't. I'm done. Dude. And then I'll pick it up eventually. Again.
Okay.
Like, for me, more difficult, really difficult games I like playing. I really liked, like, the instant respawn genre. You know, like your Hotline Miamis, your Super Meat Boys, your, those kind of things. Because it encourages trial and error on one hand, it takes the consequence away from immediate, each individual death. And it encourages trial and error in a safe environment, but doesn't take away the fact that eventually you will have to do the entire thing in one continuous sequence.
Right.
Like, they take away the consequence of individual tries while keeping in your main goal there's no wiggle room in your main goal. Like, eventually, no matter what way you do it, you have to go from point A to point B following these instructions. With Meat Boy, it's even cooler because they do that replay thing. And it's like, it's a game that makes you feel like a speedrunner. Like, when you spend half an hour in a level and you realize that it actually took you 15 seconds to actually beat it, that makes you feel really good.
Kind of sounds like Takeshi's Challenge. I don't know if anybody heard
Oh
that
my
game.
god.
Ooh.
Oh.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah.
That's not even fair. That's an abomination.
Well, with that one, it's like, you have to do the whole trial and error thing until you know the sequence of events that you have to go through in order to actually win the game. But then there's parts that aren't even based on that sequence of events where it's
like the
just
plane
pure
trip,
luck.
where if you lose, if you get hit by the train, in the plane bit once, you have to start the entire thing over. It's like a 45-minute minimum to get back, even if you know everything.
Yep. I am so sorry for bringing up that game. Forgive me.
No, you're fine. You're fine. There's worse games out there. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that people love that I can't stand. I will say one on the opposite side of the coin. I think because I'm not saying it's a masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, but I think the fact that I did not have any sort of immediate love for anything related to Final Fantasy. I didn't hate Dirge of Cerberus as much as some people did. It wasn't an amazing game, but like,
right.
I had no connection to Final Fantasy, so I was judging it on just a gameplay perspective, which was still like a lukewarm Devil May Cry, but I also hadn't played Devil May Cry at that point, so who knew?
No.
Nice.
No.
For me, it is hands down League of Legends. And not so much the game, because, like, I had a boyfriend at one point who played it nonstop. I know he still plays it.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, I tried to get into the game, and I thought it was fun. It was kind of cool, the whole RTS thing. And I loved, the main thing I really like is all the different characters and all the personalities and all the different skins you can get for the characters and stuff. But I absolutely hate, and I know there's a lot of people out there who love the game and still play it, but they also absolutely hate the community
Yes.
behind it.
It is one of the most toxic
my
online
Lord.
communities out there right now.
Oh yeah.
I think part of that too, like I think that adds to that is there's this weird combination where one is a competitive game that's a lot of high tension, but two, the way that it's built as a game makes it really easy to specifically blame individual players. Like, you can lose a match and everyone on your team will know it was that one guy's fault.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily a game problem. I'm just saying it's one that does not do well to help the community in any stretch.
Well, and then of course you can also be punished for it too, even
Mm-hmm.
if it's maybe something that was accidental or it wasn't your fault, and you can get suspended for however many days where you can't play or whatever. And actually, the other main reason why I hated it is it caused a fight so huge with one of my ex-boyfriends that we almost broke up over it.
Right.
And it was because of that sort of thing. It was because there was something we had to do. He started a game of League of Legends. I told him, "Hey, we have to go do this thing that we said we were going to do. We can't just not go do it." Which was picking up a coworker from work in a snowstorm, or not a snowstorm. That's exaggerating, but it was cold out and he didn't have a car, and so we were going to go pick him up from work. And my boyfriend's like, "Oh, he can wait, this will only be 15, 20 minutes." And as many people know, League of Legends games, you don't know how long they're going to go. And he got all pissy with me when I basically told him to turn the game off. But I also have somewhat of a different view on games where it's just a game type of thing. That's another reason why I could never get into it, because I have that thing where it's just a game, I can just turn it off and I don't care what other people are going to think. So the people in the League of Legends community would hate me, because literally I'd be in the middle of a game and something happens where I have to leave the game. It's all right, see you guys, have fun. And they would hate me because it would be my fault that my team ends up losing. And I just honestly really do not like that about that game.
I find myself often I end up with really interesting opinions with that kind of with that kind of community kind of thing, because of the fact that I am literally in the business of overanalyzing media and judging the impact of different kinds of media on pop culture and that kind of thing. So there is a certain kind of it's just a game, it's just a movie, it's just a TV show, whatever, that does actually really annoy me. But it sometimes can be difficult to explain to people that I'm trying to separate that from the it's just a game that comes from when you let those kinds of media actually take over, your actual first person life. That's actually something completely different.
Yeah. And I can understand that too. And it was, my boyfriend's argument at the time. He's like, there's real people on the other end of these, characters, and I'm going to be making real people upset. It's not like these are just like, game characters that they're all going to be really upset and my account can get banned or whatever. And I'm just like, yes, but they also have lives. They'll get over it.
Yeah.
And I really hate that they stress so much the community and even the game itself, because like I said, you can get banned or suspended. Your account can get suspended for doing that sort of a thing, and I just hate that they really stress on that. So, but that's just me. I know there are a lot of people out there who enjoy League of Legends. I know there are a lot of people out there who enjoy it and hate the community, but meh.
Well, I think that's going to be about a good spot to wrap things up. So, go ahead and let us know in the comments what your favorite things of our various things are, and we will be back with some new Deadmen content. We got a lot of cool stuff coming up, and new Bon Voyage is right around the corner. We've got our first Deadmen movie night being recorded tomorrow night. There'll be a link to that in the description below. Go ahead and circle the links and follow the socials and do all that fun stuff. And until next time, this is Deadmen Tell All Tales, signing out.